He is the Teflon Don. Whatever it is you say or throw at him, he seems to emerge on the other side. Shakes it off and continues. I just want to say, for the record, as much time as I have spent with the former president, I have never heard him refer in that pejorative way to GIs or KIA honored Gold Star families. I've never heard him use any of that kind of language, and I've never heard him invoke Hitler. I have no doubt that the reporting is accurate, but I just want to say that if it happened, and I assume if John Kelly says it happened, that it did happen, I cannot bear witness to it. John Kelly is a wonderful person, great service to our nation. He lost his son in combat. I can't imagine that he would be embellishing, out of some grudge.
That's the question here, right? And I think it's so important that you brought this up in fairness, because you and I are both journalists at our core. And when you used to report something, you needed multiple sources, and you talked to other people who were at events, who knew the person. Does this sound like him? Is this something this person would say? On and on. Let's be very specific about what General Kelly had said. This is the Atlantic article. I need the kind of generals that Hitler had. All of this reporting is coming from the Atlantic. It's all based what appears to be on a single source, which is John Kelly. Here he is in audio. No surprise that this audio is coming out 2 weeks before the election, to the New York Times. Take a listen.
He commented more than once that, that Hitler did some good things too. And of course, if you know history, again, I think he's lacking in that. But if you know what Hitler was all about, it'd be pretty hard to make an argument that he did anything good.
The timing is obvious. He could have said this 6 years ago. He could have said this 3 years ago. He's choosing to do it 2 weeks before the election. So the motives there are obvious. But if somebody praises Hitler, they don't just do it once to one guy. They do it to more people. And like you, I've talked to a lot of people who know the former president, who've worked with him, people who are extraordinarily critical of him. Mark Esper comes to mind as former Secretary of Defense. And not a single other person will go on the record and say, oh, yeah, I heard Trump talk about Hitler all the time. Is there a willingness, and we showed those clips from ABC, NBC, and CBS this morning, is there a willingness to believe anything bad about Donald Trump because there is such a visceral hatred, dislike of him?
Well, I think that there is hatred and dislike. I also have to hasten to add that the remarks, if true, are absolutely repulsive. Obviously, Hitler's generals, many of them went to Nuremberg and were hung for their slaughter of innocents. Yeah. They almost wiped out European Jewry. It's a kind of historical horror.
Right.
That
Geraldo, no
one can abide.
No one needs convincing that Hitler's bad, right? I mean, we're all there. The question, though, is if somebody is going to praise Hitler, are we to believe that the only person that Donald Trump has praised Hitler to as president was John Kelly in private, in which no one else ever heard this thing? Same thing with the suckers and losers thing that you referenced. That also came from John Kelly. No second source has ever come forward on the record and say, I heard from Donald Trump's own voice. Doesn't that at least make you question whether John Kelly's perhaps misremembering or is allowing his own feelings about Donald Trump to cloud his memory? And as a journalist, isn't it our responsibility to say what you said? If true.
I can't, as I said, I can't sit in personal witness because I never heard Trump say any of that. However, if you're going to have a single source, the source that you want is the decorated Marine Corps combat veteran, Gold Star dad who has given his entire life to the service of his country. Of all people on earth, almost, he is the one I would least suspect of lying. What would his motive be? Because he had a bad time in the White House as chief of staff, that he would go to this extent, put his whole life and reputation on the line just to gratuitously say that that Trump said these horrible things about KIA and others in service to the nation who fell.